Carolina Lime and the Prague Chimera. These two varieties have been some of our most requested out of all of them. So you better believe we tried our very best with the material that we had on site to propagate as many of these as we were able to. So with luck, and if most of the grafts continue to take as they have been, we should have quite a few dozen of both of these varieties on different rootstocks. But I want to show you some of the ones that are developing a little bit further and some of the Prague Chimera that we're actually going to have available as soon as this video posts. So these plants here, you will see them on our website, so themulberries.org, and we have 7 trees that are available. I will mention that a few people were already interested in these, but no one has secured these trees yet, so they are up for grabs, and it is completely first come, first serve. And in that order, I will also give the biggest and healthiest trees. But we'll go into things. Basically, these trees are left over from our trial rows, where we're actually planting some experimental Prague Chimera trees, where we're actually playing around with different rootstocks and different interstocks in hopes that maybe we could make a more productive Prague Chimera. So that's the goal. We had to get rid of some, so these specimens are simply extras that did overwinter already. So keep that in mind too. They will have small amounts of winter damage depending, but they all have healthy wood that is budding out and starting to grow, and these will make excellent trees in the coming year. But just keep in mind, they're not perfect, and they kind of look like sticks right now. They're pretty bare, but they are starting to flush out. So as soon as you get this, and weather permitting, these will be already growing, which is very, very exciting. But let me show you from left to right here what we got going on. I mentioned Carolina Lime, and these these grafted trees are looking amazing. These grafts are growing beautifully. I've had a lot of luck with Carolina Lime this year. It's been one of our easier grafts to get to take, both on Trifoliate Orange, as well as I think we had some grafted on Taiwanica Lemon and Sacaton Citramelo as well. So we're going to have these on a few different rootstocks that are all of comparable hardiness to the Carolina Lime itself. But we do have a few starting off that will be ready probably in the next couple weeks. We just want these to harden off a bit. That's the only thing we're waiting on, because they're a little too tender right now, and especially with the cold a lot of states are still getting, plus all the shipping, I don't want them to arrive too beat up. So we're going to let those harden off, and then they'll be ready for sale. These will be transplanted into our square 1-quart pots, which are pretty similar in size actually. So this is what you can expect from a 1-quart tree if you're ordering on the website, whereas of course these Prague Chimeras that are probably more in the 1 to 2 foot tall range, and they're in these bigger pots, that's our 1-gallon tree pots here. So they're in different size tree pots that allow us to ship them a little bit safer, and they also grow pretty nice in these pots too. But you can see we have quite a few of these that are looking really good. And I mentioned in another video, you can see even though Carolina Lime is 25% trifoliate orange, a lot of the grafts start off growing completely unifoliate. And that goes for the seedlings too, which is really interesting. But you can see those chip bud grafts are looking great on these. Really, really happy with how these are growing. And if you've seen the taste tests, these are an incredible cold hardy lime, or lime substitute, because they're not a true lime, but the lime taste on these is amazing. They're like a little sweeter lime, which is really interesting, but I think they're probably the best cold hardy lime that we have so far. And yeah, they're probably good down to that 5 to 8 degree range. We'll test and see how they do out here. They could be good to lower with protection, but that's up to some of you to find out if you want to test this in a colder area. But we have some that are a lot more of our plants are looking like that right now, where they just started flushing out. They just got a little bit of growth going. But we do have a couple of these that are a little more impressive, and we can show off to you guys. So those are growing there. Again, I mentioned the Prague Chimera is already flushing out here, which let me see if I could get you a nice close view of that. So you can see those buds there. Got this one in the way here. So you see that growth going up and down there. So that goes for a lot of these 1-gallon trees here. We're seeing bud swelling and buds growing all along these stems here. And of course, these have our nice new printed tags. We did get a lot of used parts and put together a thermal plant tag printer. So we're now able to kind of legitimize the business a little bit more and produce some really good quality, long-lasting plant tags. As opposed to previously, we were just writing on these with Sharpie, but my handwriting isn't the greatest, so I'm really happy to have this upgrade. And all of these tags also have QR codes, which you can see there. That'll take you to our website too, where you can find all these varieties and more. But yeah, these are our 1 gallon Prague trees. This is probably the smallest of the bunch, so we're saving him for last, but you can expect if you're one of the first people to order these, you will get the rest of these larger ones here. And you could see up close, these were all side veneer grafts, pretty much across the board. And they healed really, really nice. And actually you could see that one's flushing out too. So these already made it through a 10-degree winter. And again, that's why some of them might have just a little bit of frostbite, and that's gonna heal over. And you can see it's already growing above that point and below that point. So no matter what, you'll get some really good growth. These will probably grow another, if you're in a warm area, probably another 2 or 3 feet this year, if you're keeping up with fertilizer and planting it in a good sunny spot. But lastly, I wanted to show you guys, because these trees are a bit more experimental, but I had to share them with you because I do think this could be a promising rootstock if you're in a warmer area. Because granted, citramellos, because these are on Sacaton and Swingle citramello, they could be good down to very low single digits or even down to 0, but the issue is some of them will go into dormancy pretty late, or they don't go into dormancy as well as a trifoliate orange or a citrandrin. They're kind of more like citranges, where the dormancy isn't always the greatest, so that's something to keep in mind, that these rootstocks will do better in some areas as opposed to others. But in terms of hardiness, they should be very close to how hardy Prague is itself. And something interesting I noticed, you can see here, again, Prague Chimera. This is on a Sacaton citramello seedling that we grew out last year from seed. And look at all that growth. Now, would you believe me if I told you that growth was maybe about a week worth? Yeah, so this tree doubled itself in size in about a week from when it originally sprouted, at which point it kind of looked more like that one back there. So these grow incredibly vigorous on citramello, and I found that, well, they grow pretty good. They seem compatible. The vigor is really good, and you could see even the leaf type actually seems to be a little more like trifoliate on the citramello, interestingly. But there is plenty of unifoliate leaves, and it almost grows like super long and stretched out because it's just pushing out so fast. So I'm curious to see as these develop. I've had Prague grafted on Swingle before, and it actually seemed to have, again, more vigorous and kind of more slender growth, and the leaves seemed a bit smaller than on trifoliate orange. But I didn't test thoroughly enough, and there are some of these that are perhaps a little bit less vigorous, and the leaves are growing maybe a little bit thicker. So that's interesting there. But we do have them, again, on Sacaton and Swingle, and that one's a Swingle back there, and you could see how the leaf shape looks there. But it's pushing out really fast too. These are very fast growers. So if you're kind of frustrated with the growth of Prague on trifoliate orange, or more specifically Flying Dragon trifoliate orange, Prague can be very, very slow when grafted on trifoliate rootstock. Not impossible, and we have plenty of quart-sized plants that are still grafted on both Flying Dragon and standard trifoliate. However, again, they are much slower to reach bearing size, and depending, that could be a concern because you do want some thickness before these see a winter here, but at least approaching pencil thickness seems to be adequate. But again, these will reach a better thickness, but the odds of having tender growth going into the winter are also higher. So you might see more dieback, but these will recover from dieback quicker, and some of their branches will get thicker leading up to those frosts. So there's kind of a comparison to make there. And I can't truly give you the answer as to which would be superior in some climates, but I have seen some research pointing towards certain citramello rootstocks, at least for more edible or I should say more conventional citrus varieties, because Prague is very, very edible. It's perfectly dessert quality, actually, but I've seen research for other dessert quality citrus being grafted onto Citramelo, and while they had more dieback in the winter, they grew a lot faster recovering from the winter, and then they actually set more fruit. So it can kind of depend on your circumstances, but it's an interesting thing to try out. We actually only have a small batch of these. It's probably a dozen in total. These are just the ones that are really starting to get going. But yeah, about a dozen of you will have the opportunity to purchase Prague on Citramelo rootstock, and depending, I don't know if I'm going to make this like an Etsy exclusive, or if I'm going to just specify on our website which ones are going to be on Citramelo rootstock if you want those in particular. But yeah, it may appeal to some of you who want a faster growing Prague. And keep in mind, this doesn't have to be your main plant too. You can have this as a mother tree in a pot, growing fast, giving you lots of budwood, and then you can use this to graft yourself other specimens and have a whole Prague orchard if you want. That's the idea for me, at least. I want to grow a ton of these. That way, even if each one only produces, say, half a dozen or a dozen fruits, well, I've got 100 trees. That's still plenty of fruit. And it's just super cool, especially if you live in a cold area. I mean, to have a citrus grove or an orchard of, you know, high quality citrus in such a cold area, that'd be really amazing. But I'm excited to share this variety with you guys. As you can tell, I'm grafting a lot of these, trying out a lot of different things, and I kind of want to lead some of the experimentation and research with Prague and finding out if we can make it even more productive. So this is a great base, and we'll find out if other rootstock and other combinations with rootstock and interstock will help these produce better. I'll probably make a video on its own about that topic, but we're going to be experimenting with citrandarans, Tritricetradia, and citramelos as interstocks on trifoliate to increase the vigor and perhaps production of the Prague Chimera. So things to stay tuned for, but I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's something to look forward to. Again, keep in mind, if this video's up already, that means you can find these Prague on our website, and they are going to go fast. Just want to give you guys the heads up. I haven't exactly been taking reservations for the most part, because I just don't like to secure anything over the winter in case anything happens to these plants. But now that we're getting into some warmer weather and I have these potted up and ready to go, you guys can order these, and if weather looks good in your state, I will send them right over. So we got the Prague there, and Carolina Lime is coming in a few weeks. Same with the the Prague on the Citramelo rootstock. So thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.